It's after 2 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order the January 23rd, 2020 RSW Regional Jail Authority Board meeting. We have some new faces, so we'll go around the table. Doug Stanley, County Administrator, Warren County.
I'm Dolores Oates. I'm on the Board of Supervisors for the North River District.
Cheryl Color, South River Supervisor for Warren County.
I'm Tim Carter, Shenandoah County.
I'm Brendan Hefty with Hefty, Wiley & Gore, Legal Counsel to the Authority.
Russ Gelson, Arson.
Steve Weaver, RSW.
Stephanie Smith, RSW.
Debbie Donahue, Wakefield District Board of Supervisor, Rappahannock County.
Gary Curry, County Administrator, Rappahannock County.
Evan Bass, Shenandoah County Administrator.
Max Thornberry from Northern Virginia Daily.
Mark Williams, Rural Examiner.
All right, thank you for everyone in your attendance today. As I mentioned, hopefully Sheriff Butler will be able to join us. The next item is adoption of the minutes. In your packet, you have the minutes from our last board meeting on November 21, 2019. Are there any changes or corrections to note?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Sheriff Carter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is a public comment section. Public comments are limited to issues that are not the subject of a public hearing. It's intended as an opportunity for the public to give input on relevant issues and not intended as a question and answer period. Is there anyone from the public, Max or Mark, anyone wish to give comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, comments from board members. Comments from board members. Again, I just want to reiterate and thank you guys for all your efforts in litter pickup, and as was noted by Supervisor Colors, that 340 South looks pretty pristine compared to what it was looking like. I think you picked up a couple hundred bags of trash in total through that period, but much appreciated.
I'll just formally welcome Supervisor Donahue, who's just appointed in Rappahannock County, and jump in with both feet to this committee, board, and many others.
Welcome
as our vice chair.
Welcome, Ms. Donahue, and welcome Ms. Oates and our alternate. Ms. Colors, thank you, Cheryl, for being here as well. So trying to get everybody up to speed as quick as we can. It's unfortunately budget, you don't have a whole lot of time to get your feet wet.
Well, in the spirit of that, I'll note that Board Chairman Dick Neese is the appointed member here. He had a prior commitment before his appointment to this board that he had to make today, but you'll be seeing him, and a long tenured member on the Shenandoah County Board of Supervisors, and welcome him when he comes next.
Very good. Legal Counsel, Mr. Hefty.
Just a general update to make you aware, as I'm sure you are, the General Assembly's session has started in Richmond. It's early. There's several bills out there that could affect jails. Some operationally, like trespass with drones would be a crime, and policies on visitation and treatment of certain inmates, like pregnant inmates, are out there. There's a collective bargaining bill out there too, but it's early and it's a budget year, so there'll be stuff impacting the budget. So just generally nothing specific that I'm concerned about to make you aware of, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Anything in particular seem onerous out there that could impact us that we need to talk to our delegation about?
Nothing's gotten to a point yet where it's scary. It's still pretty early, so we'll see what makes it out of committees and stuff.
I saw where they really weren't looking to adjust the per diems at all, so that was. Real quick, we do have Sheriff Butler is able to join us. Mark, thank you very much for being here. We're going to go around the table just to give you an idea. We can start with you, and just so you can.
Debbie Donahue, newly elected Board of Supervisor in Rappahannock County.
Gary Curry, County Administrator, Rappahannock.
Evan Bass, County Administrator in Shenandoah.
Doug Stanley, Bonnie County.
Dolores Oates, Warren County Board of Supervisors, North River.
Cheryl Colors.
Tim Carter, Shenandoah County.
Brendan Hefty with Hefty, Wiley & Gore, Legal Counsel.
Russ Gelson, Superintendent, Arson.
Steve Weaver, Deputy Superintendent, RSW.
Stephanie Smith, Finance Manager at RSW.
This is Major Driscoll.
Thank you very much. Next item is presentation of our FY19 audit. Mr. Kelly, thank you for joining us today.
Just in time. I'm James Kelly with Rob's Farmer Cox. We've been doing the audit for a few years now at the jail. I've got a little presentation here to go over some of the highlights of the audit. What we're paid to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements, whether those are fairly stated and materially correct. We're also required to issue a report on your internal controls. This is an excerpt from the audit report. It's our opinion. It's an unmodified audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that our profession allows us to give. Again, it states that the financial statements are fairly stated and materially correct, and we're not aware of any additional material adjustments that should be made to the financials. We also, like I said, issue a report on internal control and compliance. We had identified no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses during our audit. We're also required to do state compliance testing with your purchasing policies, and also that you're in compliance with the Virginia retirement system regulations. We found no instances to report under either of those as well. So.
James, if I could ask you, you knew you were going to get this one from me, but as far as looking at that compliance for purchasing, sampling of vendors, can you talk a little bit about what types of things you look for?
Yeah, I've got a slide on it.
Perfect.
At the end.
We can wait.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yep. Hopefully, well, it's not too bad. You can read this. This is a snapshot of the statement of financial position, your balance sheet for the year. You can see at the bottom, net position is 26.2, almost 26.3 million. And of that amount, $6.9 million is unrestricted. This was as of June 30, 19, of course. Similarly, this is a summary of the revenues and expenses for the jail authority for the year. You can see that operating income was almost $1.1 million, third row up. And then adding in the non-operating revenues and the main expense is the interest expense on the debt. There was a expenses to see revenue about $472,000, but as you can see, the majority of that's due to accounting entry depreciation expense, which isn't a disbursement that you make in cash. It's just expensing a portion of your capital assets each year. So. I put together this slide, kind of showed the expenses of the authority of the last 4 years. You can see they've increased each year, but well, it's kind of self-explanatory, I guess, but and we'll look at a slide for the revenues as well. Skip past that one. These are the revenues for the past 4 years. You can see that I highlighted the non-member localities, and that accounted for most of the increase in revenues from 2018 to 2019.
So that's our bed rental income primarily from Falkirk and Page.
The next slide here shows your revenues and expenses compared to the budget that was adopted by the authority. You're pretty much on point with the revenues, just slightly under what was budgeted, and you can see mainly it's due to the member locality contributions that was less than budgeted. And also, again, I've highlighted down at the bottom that the depreciation expense is mainly the culprit for not spending, but showing expenses in excess of your budget for the year. Okay, as part of the audit this year, we had Stephanie run us a report of your 7 largest vendors. What we did was we sent confirmation to those vendors with the amount that was recorded as expenses in the authority's general ledger. So you can see we had 5 of the 7 returned to us with no exception. Dock Farmers Market and Virginia Distribution Center, we sent two requests to them and did not receive a response. But looking at the detail, the expenses to those vendors look something that would be reasonable for a jail authority. So that's kind of the results of our vendor confirmations that we did during the audit this year. And for fiscal year 2020, we got rid of our recommendation to work on the policies and procedures because that was implemented by the authority this year. We would like to see a management's discussion and analysis, which is it's basically a 4 or 5 page narrative that goes in the front of the audit, and it's written by management. Kind of describes the financial environment for the year and future initiatives and goals, that kind of information. We'll certainly next year try to provide maybe a sample if the administration is interested in that. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kelly? James, of those 7 vendors, would you say that's the vast majority of expenses? I imagine the pharmacy and food and electric and...
Yeah, it was. The report was ran based on the amount of purchases for those vendors. So other than payroll, health insurance, that kind of stuff, VRS, then those were the biggest vendors, yeah.
Questions, comments?
I actually saw where we were pretty much on track for finances for several years, and then the last year was a big increase. Do we know why there was such a big increase?
Do you recall which slide?
It was when you were showing how it progressed over the last few years.
I'm gut feeling is one, it could be either salary increases on salary, but we also...
That's what I was thinking.
In 19, look at 17, we weren't housing anybody from outside.
Gotcha.
And so you see those 2 numbers picking up in 18, 19, but with those new inmates come food expense and water and sewer expense and things that come along with that.
I was just wondering, because it was a considerable in that last year where it was staying the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks mostly the salary and fringe benefit related, and then also like was said, probably the increase in caring for the prisoners, increase in prisoners as well, and the other charges.
Where's the water and sewer realized on the expenses? Where does that fall under that? Because I was curious about what they're charging for water and sewer.
I'm guessing
it's probably in this other charges.
Other charges, okay.
But that includes obviously a lot more than...
Yeah, but you can provide detail on water and sewer, just what we spend annually.
I can.
If you can just send it out to everybody on the board.
Absolutely. Great, thank you.
It's one of our larger charges.
I kind of assumed that. That's why I asked about it.
we are a pretty sizable electric user as well.
I assume those three make up the utilities line in the budget. Water, sewer, electric.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what those mean.
Gas.
Utilities in the budget includes electric, natural gas, water, sewer, waste removal, postage, telecommunications, and internet cable services.
Here's what we budget.
Is that it?
$320 a year for water and sewer. Electric's $330. So those are the two big.
So those are the two largest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if they didn't want to build it.
Any other questions?
I just thank James for helping us identify appropriate numbers to enter into our true-up process and make sure we're consistent year to year on what we're doing. So thank you.
A lot smoother this year. Yeah.
Well, I think most importantly, a consistent path moving forward, so.
Good job. That we're able to, I think having them participate in all of that number makes it a lot cleaner for everybody. Is there a motion to accept the audit?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sheriff Carter,
Second.
second by Mr. Curry. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Kelly, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
I'm assuming we'll be able to put the electronic copy out on the website and distribute to everybody on the committee. Thank you. Item 7, Superintendent's Report. Russ.
Average daily population, Rappahannock with 14 at 3.9%. Shenandoah County with 164 at 46.1%. And Warren County with 178 at 50%. Total number of jurisdiction ADP is 356. We do have 52 contract beds from Page County and 92 from Culpeper for the month, bringing our total facility ADP to 500. We currently have 29 officer vacancies. This does include 8 positions held for vacancy savings. We do have 2 LPN vacancies. We currently have 1 LPN in background and 4 officers in background. The report you have says 3. We have an additional officer that moved in the background as of this week. Under recruitment and retention, our interest in our positions is definitely, as for officer vacancies, has picked up since the holidays have kind of got past us. We have several people in the last week or so that have contacted us and stated that they are working on completing their applications and things like that. So hopefully we can start to get more positions filled here. MA programs and services, during this reporting period, RSW Workforce has provided services to all 3 member jurisdictions. There's some further detail and photos back in the report showing work being done as far as litter pickup, hanging at the academy, things like that happening. We did receive a letter of appreciation from the Rappahannock County Recreational Facilities Authority thanking us for providing labor and work at their park over the last year. The letter, goes into how many days were provided, man hours, things like that, how much debris was removed. It is our plan to continue with that program over there and continue to support that and help beautify the park. So,
yeah,
we do appreciate the letter, but thank you.
They're very appreciative, I can tell you that, and we are looking forward to maybe a little bit more mowing from your team next year. And we appreciate that opportunity. Just
for everybody else's edification, they do significant amount of work for both Shenandoah and Warren as well. They mow 345-22 all the way to town and the south part of town there in front of Skyline High School, and also help out Soccerplex and other facilities.
We're cutting the Soccerplex, we cut the fire departments, Shenandoah County, we're doing the government center, Moortown Park. There's been special projects at the landfill at Shenandoah County. It's just, wherever there's a call, we try to, provide support if we can. So.
I know someone mentioned at a meeting I was at last night that Prospect Hill Cemetery needs some help, if that's a private.
They're probably, you can't do
You
for
can't do
private,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know they, a lot of cemeteries, they struggle with that, with the mowing operations, but we do help out, you help out the Fair Association and
Fair
other
Association,
nonprofits.
and, you know, some of the nonprofits. throughout the
I
year.
thought with them being a private entity, that was probably not a.
The LPNs, now, again, we've got some new faces. Can you go through, so what does the rest of your nursing staff look like?
Sure. We have an RN nursing director who manages the department. We have, we're approved for 5 LPNs to staff different shifts. Our goal is to make sure that we've got 24/7 nursing provided here at the facility. We also have medication aids that are approved as well. Medication aids work during the hours when medication pass occurs to help free up the nurses to actually, do so-called physical screenings, things that they're required to do.
I know y'all are making it work even with the 2 vacancies. Obviously, we can fill 1 or 2 of those, it would make that a little bit easier. Yeah.
And we just had another application today for another LPN, so.
Okay, good.
You know, it's just trying to stay competitive salary-wise in that medical field it's really difficult.
It's a tough market when you have to decide between a jail and a hospital.
Right, right. So, and every doctor's office, hospital in the region is hiring, it's a difficult market to try to fill. So, but, we're keeping it maintained at a level we need to.
How do you recruit?
Our biggest tool is Indeed.
Okay.
We do attend every single job fair that we can, and, for all 3 counties. But really Indeed is our biggest go-to as far as trying to recruit staff. That and word of mouth. A lot of times it's family and friends that, of the people that already work here, kind of getting the word out and hiring people out. But we do utilize the newspapers as well. We've kind of cut back on that just because there wasn't a large return from that. But we still do, typically around once a month, trying to advertise in each one of the local papers, just trying to work basis.
And you've gone as Blue Ray up to West Virginia on some of this as well.
Correct. Correct.
Any other questions or comments for us? Item 8, financial report. Stephanie?
Just over $425,000 was received from the Compensation Board in November for the October 2019 salaries and benefits reimbursement, and just over $417,000 was received in December for the November 2019 salaries and benefits reimbursement. Contract bed rental billing for November and December was approximately $105,000 for Culpeper County for both months, and approximately $62,000 for Page County for both months. Prince William County was just about $500 for November, and it was nothing in December. The total bed rental revenue year-to-date for FY20, including revenue from medical, housing, commissary, and telephone fees, is just over $1 million. December marks 50% of the year. Expenditures were at almost 47% used, and revenue is at 61.74% realized.
Any questions for Stephanie on the financial report? Looks good.
So does the revenue at 61, that does not include our third quarter payment, I guess?
I believe it does.
Yeah, it should.
I believe it does, yes. It might not though, sir, because I
Trying to-
received those in January.
Between that and the, yeah.
I received those in
Yeah,
January.
January.
Yeah, so no, sir, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
You may, well, I'll say mine may have been early, but I couldn't remember when it was.
I think they were all received in January. This is the one through December.
No other comments? Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
I'll just ask a question. What is there a need to approve the financial report?
We've always done it. I don't know. Legal
Change one's order. Yeah.
It's not a legal requirement that you do, but, so if you forgot about it, the world wouldn't end, but you've always done it, so.
Do other jail, how many other jail authorities do you go to the meetings? A lot.
Plenty.
Yeah.
And not all of them do that. But it's nice that you guys acknowledge the financial report and do it, but you don't have to. I mean, you can just, you can
I'm not
just
sure what we're approving.
Yeah, you're not really.
Accepting, you're accepting.
Yeah. You don't really have to. I mean, you can stop doing it as long as you get it, that's fine. I'm flexible on this one.
I will
The rare
certainly defer to
flexibility from the
Chair,
attorney.
I'm the lowly secretary.
Is there a motion to accept the financial?
I'll make that.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Sheriff Carter. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. FY19 annual report, Russ.
In your packets, if you don't have one, we do have some extra copies. This is our second year to do an annual report. Basically, it just highlights, what RSW is about, so it's giving you statistics on how many committals we have and releases and the different programs that we offer and what staff have been doing over the last year and things like that. So I don't have a specific presentation. There's a lot of information in there. It's really just kind of for the authority board to digest. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer those. As I said in the F&P meeting previously, I've been asked to come to each one of the county boards to give a presentation on this specific report. It sounds like the request is there to do that again this year, so I'm happy to do that. But it's really just kind of give everybody an overall, what RSW has done over the past year.
It's especially good for our new members to just get caught up on all the different programs and things you'll offer for the inmates especially, but it's quite a varied menu for stuff that they want to get involved, so appreciate that. Any further comments? Item 11, Page County Bed Rental Agreement.
Our current agreement that we have with Page County is due to expire in March. I have been approached by Page County asking to have another contract with them. They had asked me if we could accommodate to guarantee them 100 beds, which I said that I could not at this time due to staffing, but we could continue to maintain the numbers that we have currently. My proposal would be that we increase their contract amount from, I believe they're $35 a day to $37 a day in the first year, with a second year increase of $40 a day. Currently, our contract with Culpeper is it started out 35, went to 37, so that they would be looking at the same kind of increase to 40 on their next contract term. Page understood that we couldn't guarantee them 100 beds, but they would like to continue to try to maintain what we have. I just wanted to clarify with the board that that's still the direction that we want to go as far as maintaining that contract with Page County.
How many are we housing now?
We had
52.
52.
52 was what was in this report.
We've been as high as 80 with them, but with Culpeper coming on, that backed their numbers down once we had that 100 bed.
What does the contract say? Up to a certain amount?
No, we do not, under the current contract, we do not guarantee Page a certain number of beds. It's just that we will house, any inmates that we house for them, it gives them a contract or a guaranteed dollar amount for
So
what
we're not
they're.
changing that? Right, okay.
No.
Okay.
And it's,
With the 100-bed guarantee for Culpeper, it gives Russ a little discretion that
Right.
if for some reason we lost staff and they couldn't support it, we could back off the numbers
Right,
we had.
right, okay.
and both agreements give both parties the ability to back out with a 30-day notice without penalty.
Okay.
So,
And yeah, finance and personnel, same discussion. Ultimately, we recommended to enter into negotiations with Page at that $37 rate.
Which would equalize it with Culpeper.
Right, which would equalize the Culpeper for right now, so.
So we're not approving a new contract now, or no? Or
We are, and I think that's, the real specifics are the
the increase,
and the
right,
increase.
and then of course the date change, from this year to that year, which Brendan will.
Yeah, I think what Russ is asking is for the authority to authorize the superintendent to enter into a new agreement with Page County to rent beds under the same terms as the current agreement, with the change that the cost will be 37 for this year and go up to 40 for next year.
Current contract runs out the end of March, or March 20.
I believe it's March 22nd.
So it'll be after that point.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bass. Any discussion?
The only other thing that happened during that discussion with Page is their ultimate goal is to, they would like to build their own jail. They realize that's going to be a very long process, So, their goal is to try to maintain bed rental space here until they can, have that facility built.
Are all their inmates housed either in Page or here?
Yes.
And they use,
Well,
Some of them, I mean, they may have courtesy holds.
I can't say that definitively. They were using another facility that's about 3 hours away.
Okay.
If they still have beds there, I don't know.
and prior to that, they were at Middle River.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
But with Middle River, with their population increasing, bringing on Harrisonburg, that kind of forced Page out, and that's when they came to us. And I don't know who's kept up with the news. Middle River is just put out that they're kind of at capacity. They're looking to expand their facility and maybe even possibly looking at farming out some of their inmates because their population's so high.
Right.
So there's really no other beds to be rented close by for Page or any of the other jurisdictions around us. So, if we could get our staffing numbers up, we could, fill some of these other beds that we have here, and bring more revenue in.
Have either Page or Culpeper suggested at all an interest to buy in as a partner recently?
No. I haven't heard that.
Just again, for everybody's edification that's new to the table, several years ago, we had discussions with Page about the potential to become a partner. They originally were part of the discussion when, 2010, 2011, when we were talking about building the facility. They ended ultimately backing out. They came back a few years ago and asked us to kind of, what would the cost be to buy in, and we did analysis and had some discussions with them. They ultimately made the decision
Right.
not to move forward.
Right. It was- yeah.
And I think the reality for us, we
already
have.
had an investment, whereas they had not.
That's right. And we had an investment in 2012 dollars.
Right.
And we have the capability to go from, say, 560 to 600 current up to 950, 1,000 with expansion, knock out the south wall of the building. But there's a cost to doing that, and housing 100 and 150 prisoners would speed up that process and force the member localities to come out of pocket with additional capital. So that kind of helped back up the buy-in number. But
Right.
so we have a motion and a second to authorize the superintendent to renegotiate the contract that runs out in March with the initial bed rental cost of $37 per inmate per day, obviously plus the medical and other costs associated, and then $40 the year after that.
That presupposes that council will be reviewing the agreement.
Council will review the agreement and sign and approve as to form on the agreement. Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I think you skipped 10, did you?
Did I skip 10? Oh, I did. 2019 annual water sewer true up. Exciting stuff. We don't want to miss the water sewer true up. So again, a little background history. Town of Front Royal provides utilities to this facility. We have an agreement with the town. Normal industrial users pay 2 times the in-town rate for water and sewer. We have, I believe it's a 1.3 rate up to 540,000 gallons during any 30-day billing cycle. There's the ability at the end of the year to kind of do a true up and realize some savings. Because our usage is over that amount, we don't see that additional savings for us, I guess, long and short of it. You have a letter in your packet basically stating that as such, and also the meter recordings on the back page that talk about our usage. The difference between the almost 11 million gallons in sewer that we pay for each year and the 8.6 million gallons of water that we purchase is the fact that we collect the rainwater on the roof of the facility and use that. We use it for the cooling tower, which gets evaporated off, but we use it for our laundry services. So that the delta, the difference between those two numbers, it's it's basically 2.some million gallons of water that we collect a year and use in our laundry operations. So we don't have to pay for the water, but we pay for the sewer. Anything I missed, Russ or Steph?
Just as we talked about earlier, the maintenance on the sewer meters has improved significantly, or
whatever cycle you have for cleaning those so that we're getting much better readings.
So, yeah, we're getting, accurate readings, and we're gonna have to go back and ask for adjustments and things like that, so, now that we've got that kind of hammered out, it's kind of a learning curve. One, when we first opened, we didn't know that it was our responsibility to maintain those meters. It's a meter, you would have thought the town owned it, but it's not. We actually own it, and it's our responsibility to maintain it, keep it calibrated, and clean it, so.
And when we say meter, it's not one of those old gauges, it's a laser that shoots.
It's an optical reader that's reading the flow, and, there's, so it can get out of calibration if there's buildup, so, it was kind of a learning curve for us, and then but we've got a plan in place, and we've got it, where it's being maintained properly and making sure that it's reading the way it should.
All right, any further questions on that? Item 12, FY19 true up. Gary, you want to take this one, or?
Can. In your packet, there is a true-up spreadsheet on 8.5 by 11, but there are some larger versions floating around up on the table. So as you recall, those who were here last year, we revamped the process, looking back at the service agreement, making sure we were doing it correctly, and went back to FY15 and made some adjustments between FY15 and FY18, which resulted in a revised true-up for that entire period. So building on that work, FY19 uses the same exact process. If you're looking at the sheet on the bottom left, you can see a listing of FY19 audited financials from RFC, so that came right out of the audit that you heard about a little bit earlier, including our actual expenditures and actual revenue and actual cash provided by the localities. Ultimately, what the true-up process does is it seeks to recognize that when we enter into the budget, we make estimations on the relative proportion of inmates that each of our counties has. So we make that estimate well in advance of this 3-year process, and then once we wrap up that year, we know the actual usage over the last 3 years. And so that information is in the top row of the entire spreadsheet, and you can see for FY19 that's 5.39% for Rappahannock, 42.52% for Shenandoah, and 52.09% for Warren. That's bed space that was used on average over the last 3 years. Similarly, if you look just below that, you can see in FY19 we budgeted at much different rates, 6.3% for Rappahannock, 37.98 for Shenandoah, 55.72 for Warren, because it was the best information we had available at that time. So the spreadsheet corrects for that change, but it also corrects for the fact that when we budgeted, we had forecasted revenues, and we had expected budgeted expenditures, neither of which are actuals that were put into that were shown in the audit. So our actual revenue was much higher from outside sources than we budgeted because of all the contracted bed rental. And our actual expenditures was actually a little lower than what we budgeted, and the net of all that is that the counties don't have to contribute as much as we budgeted on an overall basis. So now if you move to that bottom row where FY19 is, and you can see there's a box over to the right, you can see the audited FY19 local share. That's just taking the local, I guess the net operating expenses, take the total expenses, subtract off all the revenue from everybody else, and that leaves a certain amount of expense that needs to be shared. Multiply that by the 3-year usage percentage, you can see our actual audited local share. That'd be 337,006 for RAP, and then below that for the others. Next to that, you can see the actual cash that was paid by each locality. And then next to that, you can see an FY18 credit that was applied to FY19. So each year we go through this, we identify an overpayment or underpayment from a preceding year, and rather than just write checks to each locality, we allow the localities to credit against their 4th quarter payment. So that FY18 credit is accrued to 19, and so to the right of that you can see the total FY19 locality revenue that's cash and a credit for each locality, and then simple subtraction leads to an FY19 over or underpayment. To the extent that those numbers are more or than the fourth quarter payment, a cash check would have to be cut by the authority to each locality, and I think that only affects Rappahannock. On top of that, if that's not confusing enough, at this time of year, we have an opportunity to invest in our capital fund because we know there's future potential capital needs. It is a relatively new building, but that only lasts so long, and so we need to put some money away to avoid a situation where the localities are asked to increase their funding drastically in 1 year to cover a piece of equipment like the cameras or something like that. Back on the left of this spreadsheet, if you look, there's a solid box that has a 0 in it, contribution to capital. Any number placed in that box is then shared out to each locality by their relative percentage. So just doing some a goal seek, if we put $74,942 in that box, Shenandoah's overpayment would be reduced to 0. And they're the lowest on the overpayment. It'd be my recommendation that we put that money into capital, the $74,000, which would be $31,865 for Shenandoah, the relative
Slightly higher
percentage.
for Warren.
Yeah.
Not as much for.
Right.
And that was the recommendation from the Finance and
That's
Personnel
correct.
Committee.
That is correct.
And I would entertain any questions if people have them.
And we currently have, what was the number?
$408,008.
So you'd add that 74 to that number, 482, 3. Any comments or questions? We do anticipate next year being larger again because of the bed rental revenue is up even significantly in the current year.
And 19 and 20 are the two really big years of bed rental revenue that has not been recognized, and as we move into the budget discussion, we'll
Talk about that.
that may be different for the next fiscal year, 21.
Is there a motion to accept the true up and have it applied to our fourth quarter payments as outlined?
I'll make that motion with just recognizing that any credit over that fourth quarter payment be provided by check to locale.
And for the 74,942 to be put into our capital account.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 13, draft the proposed FY21 budget. Stephanie?
So there were also large copies of the budget included up there if you wanted a larger version. It was in your agenda packets. For those of you that were here in November, the budget was initially introduced then. The only changes that have been made from that initial introduction is that we have increased our budgeted amount for food supplies due to changes in our vendors and inmate population, and then we have decreased what we had budgeted originally for the body scanner.
Is that food under materials and supplies? Which?
Yes, food service and materials and supplies.
And what was the other one?
We have reduced the amount that was originally budgeted for the body scanner, which is in capital outlay.
Which we talked about at the last meeting and was estimated at that time of
300,000 is what we had initially budgeted for, and we've reduced that to 200,000.
Russ, can you give a 2-minute overview for our new folks as far as what that does for us?
Sure. We'd like to put out a request for proposal to obtain a body scanner for the facility so that any new committals or arrests that come into the facility, we can run them through that scanner to make sure that they're not smuggling contraband in. Contraband being weapons, drugs, anything that's not allowed inside the facility. That is probably our biggest challenge. We can conduct the best hands-on search we can, but the truth of the matter is, if people want to get something inside a facility like this, they're gonna carry it inside their body. The only way to detect that is through a body scanner.
and that's I asked this before, that's the airport thing, you put your arms up and then whirls around you and...
There's different models, different versions of how they work. Technology is continually changing. reason we reduced the cost, doing a little more research, we still don't have an RFP out yet, the costs are coming down. The more they sell of these things, the more, the costs are reducing, so.
Is there a maintenance contract, and how long are they normally lasting?
And those are things that we get into, once we do the RFP and we get the proposals back, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, so.
I firmly agree with it. I just know that if they're breaking down a lot too.
Right.
You might have like a 5% maintenance charge.
Right.
Handle the cost of it.
Yeah, and we may get the proposals back and it may not be, a cost that the board wants to carry, if it's gonna be a huge contract cost every year, I don't know what it could be, then it may not, it may not be worth the reward of it, who knows. So, but we definitely want to get it earmarked in the budget so that if, it looks like it's something that's gonna be feasible, we can get it purchased this year.
Now, is this something our work release guys will be going through as well? Or just
A lot of the new systems, they're more mobile than they are fixed. So the nice thing about them is, okay, most of the time we're gonna use it in intake, but if we need to take it to work release, we can. Or if we're doing a shakedown of a unit, then we can move it out in the main corridor of the hallway and not have to phone everybody intake. So there's a lot of different options out there with the technology, and of course, we're gonna use it to its maximum, for what it is, so.
I think it's awesome for a jail. There's too much stuff that can be in.
I mean, we do our best to make sure that there aren't drugs inside this facility, but we'd be lying if we said it wasn't happening. There are too many people that come in that are delayed confinements, they know they're coming to jail. They can make those plans and they're gonna do it, and they make money that way, they're trying to support their habit that way, and it's our job to try to prevent that, to make sure that they stay safe and our staff is safe. And the risk of fentanyl and the things that are out there to our staff is just, it's growing faster and faster every year. So we're looking at this really to try to be more of a overall safety measure than anything.
Other thing, the budget, if you look under contract bed rental space, current budget, we were realizing $950,000 in the estimate. In the budget, we said 1.9 million. We've asked Stephanie to go back and look at revising that. I think we're looking at just probably close to 2.1, and if our current billing
Fully.
stays
For
in
Culpeper
place,
Page,
with Culpeper
their current
Page, we're looking at taking maybe 75% of that, including the budget. Hedging our bets, because there is a kick-out clause for both jurisdictions. We're not anticipating that, but just being a little bit cautious, because we'd rather not have to go back and ask our localities to come up with $250,000 or something during the middle of a fiscal year.
But we do have, we have a fair amount of fund balance reserve that could absorb a shock like that if it had to, rather than going back. We don't want to do that. And we do budget heavy on expenses for personnel. So there are a couple
Safety
relief
valves,
valves.
relief valves. So we'll basically decided this is for informational purposes. If there are any new concerns or anything, certainly raise them, but you'll see it back in full authority in March after we have comp board and health insurance numbers to be able to plug into, because we still have a couple pieces that are incomplete.
Right, so we'll be looking for the F&P to review in February, and then the full board to approve in March. So then each of us will then do what we have to do with it.
Any other comments or questions, concerns? And certainly if you go back home and review it, please let Russ, Stephanie know if you got some questions. 14, Finance and Personnel Committee update. Evan, I know we talked about most of it. Is there anything we did not?
The only thing that we discussed that was on our agenda was this concept of potentially putting solar panels, used solar panels from another facility. Ultimately, the return on investment, as reviewed by those that can determine those things, estimated that return on investment would be or exceed 10 years. So we're not going to be proceeding with any additional conversations there. We've asked Russ to let those folks know that. Other than that, I think you've covered absolutely everything that comes from finance.
Any other outstanding issues, any new issues, anybody's got?
I'd like to point out that new board member, District 3 Supervisor Brad Pollock came in the room. That's who came in.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was late.
Welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And again, to our new members, I certainly welcome you, and feel free, please ask questions. And you'll find Russ is very quick to get a response. I know, and I didn't have a chance, I'll email it to you, but if you want a tour, either today or another time,
Get a shakedown.
Russ is, we can arrange that. And again, I forgot to get to you, see whether you could do it today or not. I don't know what your schedule is, Russ, but if not, another time we can do that as well. It is, at some point, I definitely would encourage it, just so you understand the layout of the facility and how it works. And, it's pretty, having been in our old jail and numerous other old jails in my job, and Rappahannock had the oldest operating jail in the state of Virginia, I believe, at one point in time when they were still operating. But it's much different, especially the direct supervision and the fact that you have corrections officer in the unit with the inmates. So it's a lot different than what you see on TV, I guess that's it.
Are we primarily direct supervision?
No, it's a good blend.
Linear and...
We've got some linear, we've got some modular remote, and we've got some direct. So it's a mix, and it depends upon the classification in there, where they're being housed.
Who normally is in our direct supervision? What level of classification?
Minimum to medium. We have modular remote for our kind of high mediums and max, and we've got linear for any kind of admin seg. We also have dormitory style, which we actually house the majority of our female population in, which is ran linear. So our work release is dormitory style as well.
Are we overcrowding in any of them? Most of them?
I mean, the way we operate is if it's a double occupancy cell, then that cell's full. And we try to make sure that each one of the units are at its capacity. I have two completely empty units. But we try to make sure that we're running as efficiently as we can, and the way you do that is by making sure each one of those cells is full and each one of those units is full, so that you're getting the best bang for your buck as far as the officer and the housing unit wear and tear and things like that. So that's how we operate.
I know in Fairfax, when we took over Lorton's inmates, and we had people literally stepping on each other because we were so waiting for the new jail to open, and it caused a lot of use of force issues.
We have no one on the floor. Everybody has a bunk. Everybody's in a cell.
Cool.
Again, anybody that would like a tour today, tomorrow, whenever, I'm accessible to you anytime you need. So.
Our meeting schedule for the full authority. Next meeting is, again, March 26th. We'll be talking budget, so please, if you're able to join us that day, please try to do so. Then followed by May 28th and July 23rd. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Sheriff Carter, second by Mr. Bass. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Should we go
Time now?
I think, yeah.